Hello, welcome back to the Post Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Walker, and today Elliot Heath joins me again for the big Premier League season preview. Elliot, how you feeling?
I'm feeling optimistic, excited for a big weekend, game week one.
Yep, yep, same. Premier League, yes, back this weekend after the very short not mid-season, post-season break with all the COVID things going on and stuff like that. But we're back already. Not long of a break. Exciting times as the Premier League kicks off again. And yeah, we're going to go through Premier League table predictions with you guys today and give you guys, sorry, an insight into what we think will happen in terms of Champions League, who's going to win the title, and of course the relegation battle as well. So I guess we'll just dive straight into it. And
Make sure you comment below who you think's table is the more realistic out of the two.
yes, we'll post both our predictions in the comments or in the description below. So yeah, comment your own tables as well. Give us your own predictions if you'd like to, and yeah, that'd be great. Drop us a like, subscribe as well. We're just starting out, so show us all the love you can. So yeah, we'll get started with our tables and get right into it. Do we want to start with bottom to top or top to bottom?
I think we start with 20th.
Start with 20th. Okay. Who have you got finishing dead last, the wooden spoon?
I think it's a toughest decision. You never really know. I feel bad predicting someone to finish bottom, and I don't think any particular side is a bad side in the Premiership because it's the Premiership. But I have gone in 20th place with the mighty Fulham.
Mighty Fulham.
Yes.
Right. Scott Parker, you don't give a chance of
I think Scott Parker's a
surviving.
good manager, but I don't think they have a strong enough squad. I think defensively, I look at their centre back pairing, Tim Ream. I think he's a good championship player, but I think defensive wise, they're not going to be anywhere near the capability they should be to stay up.
Yeah. Who's the left back again at Fulham? The one that scored in the championship.
Joe by Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brian.
I mean, he's a good player for them. They've also got Mitrovic up front, who's, in amongst the goals as well. But
They certainly have some talent, but I'm just comparing them. I look at the other sides and I see those sides are stronger than them. I think they're the weakest out of the three coming up, and they did come up through the playoffs, so you'd expect that.
yeah, no, fair enough. Maybe they're going for a different approach coming into the Premier League. This time, we saw last time they were promoted, they signed a bunch of players, very expensive. They spent a lot of money in the transfer market, and that obviously went south for them. Do you think
Something
that?
like 150 million, and then went straight back down, which would have had pretty serious financial ramifications for them, I would have thought. But we saw Aston Villa do it last year, and they just stayed up. They were one goal from going down, but yeah, I think they haven't done a whole heap in the transfer window to convince me. And I think he's not a bad signing from Southampton. I think they got the double signing in Harrison Reed and Mario Lemina. I think Reed was permanent and Lemina was on loan, but
Right.
I don't know a whole heap about Reed. I haven't seen him play a heap, but I'm sure both of them will be decent squad players, but I don't think they're the sort of players that are going to be able to carry them to safety.
Yeah, no, well said. And I guess the key for Fulham this season, we've seen in the past in the Premier League, owners are quick to sack their managers if things go badly. But I think they need to try and stick with Scott Parker, who is a good manager, as you mentioned, throughout the season. And I think that's the only way they're going to give themselves the best chance of surviving this season. Yeah, in terms of quality of the players there. Not necessarily the greatest out of the three coming up, but I guess if we look to Sheffield United, when they came up, they didn't make all too many signings either. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But
The thing is, with Fulham, a lot of those players have played in the Premier League before because they only spent one season in the Championship. So
mhm.
Sheffield United, all those players were coming into the Premiership for the first time, and they became players that performed at that level. Where we've already seen a lot from a lot of those players at Fulham already. And
Right.
I do think players like Onum are good players, but I still worry about a lack of goals and the amount of goals they concede because I think if Mitrovic isn't scoring, then who's providing you the goals?
Mhm. Fair enough. Should we move to 19th? Well,
Well, you haven't said your 20.
yeah, I put West Brom.
West Brom in
uh,
20th.
dead bottom. Honestly, I haven't
Well, I'll
done
move on to my 19th, and then we can discuss about West Brom because I have West Brom
sure.
in 19th.
I've fallen at
Okay,
19th,
so
so
we just sort of traded there. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
So I
can
put Fulham,
yeah.
yeah, Fulham 19th, West Brom 20th. I was just the thinking behind that. Just Fulham, as you mentioned, they've had players play in the Premier League before, so I was thinking maybe like they could use that towards their advantage, having that experience going through a relegation battle. That now they know what not to do. So maybe that helped them to know what to do in terms of trying to stay up this season. That was the reasoning behind that. But I still have them being relegated, so it's not like yeah, it wasn't. It was hard to pick who was finishing bottom, who was 19th. Really, it wasn't much.
Can be a bit of a lottery sometimes, but again, for me, West Brom, the defensively, I don't see them as particularly strong. I think I don't particularly know. I know Ajayi plays there, and he's okay. I think he may be up to Premier League standard in terms of mid-table-ish sort of club. But I think you've still got players like Higazi, who, for me, they're backups at best in the Premier League. I think if those sorts of players, levels of centre back, aren't they're going to ship in a lot of goals. I think.
Yeah, no, exactly. Slaven Bilic, experienced Premier League manager,
He
ex.
is an experienced Premier League manager. He's the ex-West Ham manager, and I think he is a good manager. I think gets the best out of a lot of their players I've seen. Darnell Furlong, the young right back, he was playing at Queens Park Rangers a few years ago. Now at West Brom, was a
Mhm.
good championship right back last year, but remains to be seen whether he players like him can take the step up into the championship, the Premiership. Like Matthias Pereira had a great season in the championship.
We
Bought
got
him
a
permanently. Can he step up now? Same with Dean Garner. Had a great season in the championship, although and now spent 18 million on him this to get him permanently. But I
Mhm.
think he's unproven because he's not yet performed at Premier League level, and he did pick up quite a few injuries last year. So I think he's quite injury prone, and I think that comes because he's still very young and hasn't developed. His body fully hasn't developed, and he's not as strong as I think he can be. So I think coming up to the Premiership, he's a player who you'd hope to perform because they've spent 18 million on, and I actually rated him very highly coming back to West Ham, but he's not a guarantee to perform because I think the Premiership is another beast in terms of getting. I've seen him play at West Ham 2 seasons ago, and he got bumped off the ball very easily. So I think if he hasn't fixed that in the last 2 years. He's someone that may not have the impact West Brom hope.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess with the physicality in the Premier League is another level up. So we'll have to wait and see how he fares with that. But I was just looking through the West Brom squad just quickly, and maybe we are being a bit harsh on them. They have some names that everyone is familiar with, I'm sure. Kieran Gibbs. We've also got Jake Livermore, Grzycki. We've also had Matt Phillips and Charlie Austin and Robson Kanu. So there's some familiar names there, which could maybe that experience. There's also Premier League experience in that squad.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll be interested to see how Grzycki goes. Been in the Championship for a long time now, so playing in the Premiership this year, it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
I think he just scored in the Nations League as well on the weekend too for
But
Poland.
Charlie Austin, he's one of those ones. Again, he can be a good player, but he didn't light up the world at Southampton.
No,
And he's quite old now. It's a long time since he had that really good season for QPR.
true.
So remains to be seen whether they can score enough goals. But I think certainly that if you've got Dean Garner and Pereira clicking on the wings, I think, or 10, if Pereira plays 10, I'm not quite sure. I think he might fluctuate. But if those two players are clicking, then they're going to get service to Charlie Austin that's of pretty good quality, and he will score goals. So I think they definitely have the potential to stay up if that attacking sort of four players is clicking, I think.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Um, I was just looking through the Aston Villa. Should we move on to 18th place then, or do you have anything else to say about?
No, I think whilst 19th, I mean, anyone can stay up, and I think West Brom have the potential to stay up. I think they'll find it hard to stay up. I think they'll go back down.
Okay, fair enough. 18th place then. Who have you?
I've gone for a shock, and you're probably going to say it's biased from what happened in the transfer window already, but
Mhm.
I've gone with Crystal Palace
Oh, okay.
to go down, and it's a tough one. They could be a team that comes out and finishes 10th, I think, but they also could be a team that gets relegated because I think they don't have a whole heap. When I look at them, I don't particularly see them as a world-beating team. And I think Zaha is a very good player, but he was really down on his numbers last year. Like from what he's produced over the last few years, and specifically 2 seasons ago, he was well down on what he gave them last year. And I don't think they particularly strengthened from last year. I know they bought Eze, and I think he'll be a very good signing for them, but they already struggled to score a lot of goals, and I just can't see them scoring that many more than they did last year, even with Eze. I know they think they get Sorloth back from loan, who had a really good season abroad, but again, they're one of those teams I can see. They're in and around that pack. There's a lot of those. There's probably about 7 or 8 teams that I think could all go down. I
Mhm.
just think Crystal Palace. I just have this feeling that they're not going to be quite up to it this year.
Yeah, okay. I definitely take your points with Palace. Not necessarily signing anyone amazing in the transfer window. Of course, they got Eze in, but they haven't really strengthened per se. And
And again, that back four isn't the strongest.
no, and you're wondering where the goals are coming from as well, with Zaha not producing the numbers that he's usually known for. Um, but yeah, in 18th, I've gone for Aston Villa. I think they may go down. It was a tough decision, to be honest. I was considering putting West Ham or Palace in that position too, just with everything that's going on at West Ham at the moment. I'm sure you can agree it's a bit of a shambles. So they don't fill me with great confidence going into the season. But yeah, Aston Villa purely because, again, you're going to be wondering where the goals are coming from. Yeah, you got Jack Grealish obviously creating and scoring goals himself, but we look at the strike force over there. Wesley, it's not really going to be troubling anyone. I
No.
don't think so. I
I think
guess it's
Wesley's okay if he gets service. But where's his service coming from? You've got
well,
Trezeguet on the wing, who played okay at times, but I don't think again he's that good. I really just don't think he's that good. And Grealish does play left wing sometimes, I believe, for them. But if Grealish is playing that in the number 10 role in the midfield, I'm not sure who plays on the left for them and who is giving Wesley that sort of service.
no, I agree. I guess yeah, Jack Grealish being called up to the England squad for the first time earlier in the week. Maybe can take them over the line again. I'm not too sure, but the defense is still a bit of a worry. Tyrone Mings is a decent defender, all right in the air. They conceded a lot of goals last season. They've got Tom Heaton in goals though, so we know how good of a keeper he is. So I
They
don't
have
know. So,
they have conceded a lot of goals, but what I would say is that they've signed Matty Cash at right back for 16 million, I think it was, from Nottingham Forest. He's coming with the reputation as one of the best right backs in the championship. So I think that will probably strengthen them up from what a 35-year-old El Mohammadi at right back last season. So I think that that's certainly an upgrade, and I think he will strengthen their defence. But yeah, you're right. I still do worry with the amount of goals they've chipped in because they haven't brought in a centre back.
mhm.
Tyrone Mings is supposed to be quite good, and I think he's a decent player, but I think if he was that good, they wouldn't have let in the goals they did last year. And Douglas Luiz plays that holding role, and there were so many people saying how much of a good season he had, Villa fans thinking he was really good. But again, that sort of five is responsible for how many goals you let in, and they shipped a lot of goals. So I don't think they're particularly strong in that area, but I think personally for me, they have just enough to stay up.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. We'll move on. That's our relegation covered. So I have Villa, Fulham, and West Brom going down, And who do you have going down against?
Palace, West Brom, and Fulham.
Palace, West Brom, and Fulham. So pretty similar there. Lots to agree on. But yeah, I guess 17th place. Who have you gone for?
I've gone for Brighton.
Okay.
Gone for Brighton in 17th place. I think, again, it's another one of those people that I could see falling into the relegation zone or being maybe 3 or 4 places higher than what I put them up into that mid-table 13th, 14th sort of spots. But again, Brighton, we've been saying they'll go down for quite a few years now. A lot of people have had them going down there for the last 2 or 3 years, maybe. And whilst I think they've made some astute signings and they have enough to stay up, I think if you look at their squad in general this year, it wasn't great. I think they overperformed slightly, I reckon. I think they brought in a decent centre-back. I can't remember his name, the bloke from Ajax. Weitman maybe or something like that. But he's someone who probably strengthens their back four a bit. Lallana
Yeah.
will be interesting to see how he gets on. He's aging, very injury prone, obviously. So I'm not sure he'll have the effect they want him to.
Well, and they've lost the GOAT as well, Aaron
They
Moy.
have lost the GOAT in Aaron Moy. And I think he's one of their best centre mids personally. I think it was a strange decision to sell him. I understand you've brought Lallana in, but I think Aaron Moy is quite a good player. If you have a look at their midfield, I think they have Lamptey coming through. He just made his England under-21 debut possibly the other day. So I think maybe they're trying to give him more minutes in that centre of midfield. But again, I think Moy is a good player and I think he's quite a loss for them. But I still think they have enough to stay up. I think Trossard's a good player and I think Maupay is a good player. I think they'll struggle to score goals, but I think they'll score enough. And obviously Glenn Murray's gone to Watford. I think Glenn Murray's quite a good backup, but I guess he's aging and probably not going to cut it this year, although it's an interesting move to move him on loan. I would have thought you might as well keep him around to have as that backup.
Yeah, fair enough. 17th place, I've gone for Crystal Palace. Same reasons as we mentioned before, just with Zaha maybe not necessarily producing the greatest season last year. That could be a struggle for them. Yeah, I just don't really see.
And we've still got 5 weeks till the end of the transfer window, so there's no guarantee Zaha stays. You never know what happens. It's looking like he'll stay at the moment, but
yeah, exactly.
I think partly the reason why he didn't play so well last year is possibly because he wasn't all there. He didn't want to necessarily be at the club, and he was very frustrated that he was still there. And we've all heard that he wanted out again this summer, and he's looking like he won't get that again. So, is his head going to be there? Is he going to be playing the same football he was 2 years ago? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, that was in my thinking as well. That one, without Zaha performing, I think Palace could be in a bit of trouble. They still have some great players, Milivojevic in midfield, Townsend as well. So they still have very experienced Premier League footballers at the top level. So that's why I haven't quite got them relegated yet. But
I think Eze could be very crucial for them. I think he'll be the difference whether they stay up or go down in terms of what he brings, because I don't think they have that attacking midfielder that I think it's why they struggle to create goals. I don't think Ayu's the greatest striker to be alone. I think he goes missing a lot. I think he could score some good goals, but I think he's a bit inconsistent for me. Zaha depends on how he's playing, and then on the right wing, Townsend really is the man, and he really hasn't been cutting it a great deal for a few years now. But again, I just think if he creates and gives them opportunities, they'll stay up. But if he doesn't, I don't think anyone else in that midfield has the ability to create for them. Milivojevic is very a defensive-minded player. Kouyaté is a very defensive-minded player. These players aren't particularly naturals in going forward and creating chances.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll move on then to 16th place. I've put Brighton.
I put Villa.
Put them a bit lower. Put Villa there. Okay. You think well, we mentioned before, we think Villa has enough to stay up.
I think the signing of Matty Cash is a great one again, strengthens them and will help them going forward. With service into players like Wesley, Grealish looking like he's going to stay, he'll help. I think their squad is just good enough to stay up. And I think having spent 100 and whatever million last year, they've all had a year to sort of settle now in the Premier League, whereas Fulham didn't. And I think they'll almost be better off for that than not for spending that much money. I think that's where the survival in the first year and then the kick on in the second year will be what will happen, I think.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Yeah, I put Brighton in there. I think they have enough to stay in the Premier League. They showed that last season. They have that grit and determination that was required of them. Yeah, more pay up front. He's been since the post lockdown. He's looked a bit more lively for them as well, which I think could help going into this season. Who's the right back there? Was that Ampty we were talking about, or he's a midfielder?
No, he's a midfielder.
I had a right back coming through as well, the young Englishman. Oh, was he English? I can't remember, but they have him coming through the ranks. And yeah, I think they'll have enough to stay up. Obviously, losing Aaron Moy, I thought it was a bit of a strange decision as well. I guess maybe we're a bit biased being Australian, but I actually think he was one of their best
Although for
players.
the years that Brighton have now been in the Premier League, I would really like to see they're sort of an established Premier League club now. I'd like to see them be a bit more ambitious and try and kick on. I think they've been in and around that 15th, 16th, just teetering on relegation but staying up for a few years now. That I think I'd like to see them invest a bit of money and try and climb into that sort of 12th, 13th, 11th.
Yeah. Yeah, well, maybe it's the season for them to do it. A few more seasons under their belt. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It's really hard to pick these positions as well.
Yes, Graham Potter's had a full year in charge now, so
True.
that's another factor in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, move on to 15th though.
Yeah, 15th place. I have gone for your Mighty Hammers.
I have also gone for West Ham.
Okay. Yeah. I think that, well, it's obviously a bit of a mess at the club at the moment with the selling of Diangana and yeah, it was just Mark Noble obviously tweeting as well, which he rarely tweets out. So controversy with that. Obviously the board. I think you may probably have things to say about that. And yeah, I think that just before you start speaking, because I know you'll have a bit to say about this being a West Ham supporter, but with Moyes maybe not having a full pre-season, but having a proper sort of time with the players during the.
He's had 9 months now at the club.
Yeah, I think that'll go a long way into him implementing his ideas for the whole campaign ahead, and that will be a big help. And obviously, the players have had a bit more time to settle in the Premier League and gel all those new signings that you made last season and the season before that. So I think that'll help West Ham to stay up a bit more comfortably this time.
Yeah, I think they will stay up. I am worried, I must say, going into the season, I am worried that they could go down, but I think they will stay up. And I think they'll be around that sort of 15th position because I think if you look at their squad and you look at the position they finished last year, obviously being 17th, just missing out on relegation, their squad suggested they were a lot better than what they performed. And I think many predicted they'd be inside that top 10, really. Yeah. Almost fighting for that sort of 7th spot with Everton, Leicester and Wolves, but they really disappointed. And I think that, yes, maybe that was because of Pellegrini and maybe some of the signings he brought in weren't the greatest, but I think it's also a lot of the players underperformed. Felipe Anderson, we know he has it. He had a brilliant first season here and then went missing in his second season. Haller, he cost 45 million, scored something like 8 goals. If these players start to play like many people think they can, then you're going to see a West Ham finish mid-table, I think. I still think defensively there's a great worry. I think Diop and Ogbonna are pretty inconsistent as a partnering. They play some good football together and then they play some bad football together. Cresswell as left back is aging and not doing the job. They need a left back. Right back, they've got young Ben Johnson coming through. He's just made his way into the first team. And Fredericks as a backup. So if Johnson lives up to his potential, I think they can probably stick on the right back. Obviously, in the last few days, there's been talks of West Ham have put in multiple bids for Tarkowski, who I think would be a great signing. But again, I don't think he's coming. Burnley obviously want that 50 million relegation, not relegation, that release clause. So I think really they should be going for a backup striker to Haller, another backup centre back. I was annoyed they missed out on Shane Duffy for loan, but possibly a player like Stones, who's on the edge at City, to come in, and then a left back, possibly Rico Henry from Brentford. I think Fabianski in goal will be solid, and Randolph's a solid backup. I think if Rice stays, Souček stays fit, they've got a pretty strong midfield. I think Fornals will play ahead of them. We've seen the form Michail Antonio can be in, obviously winning July Player of the Month, first person to ever win that. Bowen, again, a very good signing who is good enough for Premier League football. And then depending on how Haller plays, he could turn out to be a good player. So I think they will stay up. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the sort of top 10, inside the top 10 or anything like that. I think they'll just have a season where they middle out in 15th, and maybe then next year they can invest and try and push up the table.
Yeah, sounds good. I think that, the defense is something that definitely needs to be addressed. I guess missing out on those signings would be excruciating at this point. But
I've also seen reports today that Everton are.
I think definitely.
I think we've lost each other there. I was just going to say that Everton, I've seen reports that they are looking to loan Tomori, and Chelsea are willing to let him go on loan. And I think that would be a great signing for West Ham if they could snatch a Tomori on loan. He provides great cover at centre back, I think.
That would be good, yeah. I can't believe Chelsea would, I guess, with all the signings they've been making, but I guess they're loaning him out and not selling him. We've seen in the past Chelsea sell some of their really good young players.
You look at Malang Sarr, who they brought in as a 20 or 21-year-old, and he sort of is the same as that Tomori. So I guess they would like to loan one of them out. And I think either one of those, West Ham should be onto that.
Yeah.
Not that it cost you anything except their wages, or maybe $1 million for the year-long loan. You just, those are the sorts of things you got to be going. We saw Sheffield United bring in Ampadu on loan this week. That's a great signing. Like, they've just got to be more smarter with recruitment, I think.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see, I guess, in terms of your perspective, to see West Ham be a bit more proactive in the market and really go out and get what they want straight away. The plan didn't really look too clear for the transfer market this time around.
But there was no plan, and we're 3 days out from the Premier League starting, and we're only now starting to put a few bids in for some players.
Yeah.
So at the earliest, you're looking at 3 or 4 games in. That's when players are going to start actually becoming ready to be involved in a match day squad if we do sign anyone. So I think, again, it's just poor plans coming into it, and poor by the people above in high positions at West Ham, that there was no real strategy or no real intent to go hard at the start of the transfer window.
Yeah, perfect. I think just quickly finishing up on West Ham with Declan Rice, Mikel Antonio, Felipe Anderson, Haller, those types of players, I think they'll be fine to
Yarmolenko. A lot of technically good players that if they can find some form, stay fit, be consistent, they'll be all right.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well said. We'll move on to 14th place then. I've gone for Newcastle United.
We'll do a little fist bump there, because we've also gone for I've also gone for Newcastle in 14th. So that's another one we've gone the same.
Right, perfect. Yeah, we did not make these tables together, disclosure. We have no idea what each other have picked yet. But Newcastle 14th. They've just signed Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser, the double from Bournemouth. Two great signings in my opinion. A few question marks ahead of Ryan Fraser. But what are your thoughts on Newcastle?
I think Newcastle have a decent squad. But again, I look at Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson signing, and I don't like it. I don't like the two signings at all. I don't like Callum Wilson as a person either, if I'm being honest. Here's a bit of a rivalry going there with West Ham. But even so, you spent 20 million on Callum Wilson, who, yes, is a proven Premier League player. He's also a very injury-prone player, and he also had a pretty bog-standard season last year in a side that was relegated. You've just bought two attacking threats from Bournemouth, a team who were relegated and struggled to score goals. Fraser was awful last season. Wilson wasn't much better. I think Fraser probably, the way he left Bournemouth, he's probably demanding some pretty high wages for Newcastle. And I think for Newcastle already, I think they did need that backup signing, that backup striker signing, sorry, but I probably think they could have done a bit better business than Wilson for the 20 million they bought just because Joel Linton isn't cutting it. But again, I look at their attack and I think Almiron, St. Maximin, they both had good seasons and they're just starting to flourish and become good players. So I think that Ryan Fraser signing is a bit of, again, he provides good backup, but I think for a player that would be on his wages, I just don't think he's that worth it. I think you're better off investing some money in the defence.
Yeah, I guess that could be a possibility. You think Callum Wilson wouldn't start over Joelinton?
I'm not sure where Steve Bruce is head at. I think you give the nod to Joel. The fact that he's only signed a couple of days ago, Wilson, I think you give the nod at the start of the season to Joelinton for me. And I think if Joelinton's not doing it again, I think Wilson starts, yes. But again, I think I just can't see Wilson coming in and being that sort of 15 to 20 goals they need.
Well, I guess last season, obviously, Bournemouth not the best of years, but we have seen Callum Wilson perform at quite a high level. There's talks of being called up to the England squad, moving to Arsenal for him too, not too long ago. But he is injury prone, so I
And he's
guess
getting on. He's not exactly young anymore. I think he may be 29, is he? Something around that.
something like that. Yeah, but I think there is quality still there in him, and I guess maybe Steve Bruce sees something in him that obviously we can't see. But um, I think if you have Saint Maximin, Callum Wilson, and Ryan Fraser as your front three, it's not a bad
No, I think
Newcastle.
again, that sort of argument you can have is that Callum Wilson will get the service with those three there.
Yeah,
So
it's better than Almiron, Joelinton, and Saint Maximin.
yeah,
I
it
think.
is. But yeah, again, I think they probably only need to do with one of those signings because although they have just signed Jamal Lewis as a left back from Norwich. So I
Yeah,
think that's a pretty good signing as he's a 20 or 22-year-old or something. But so I think that's a very good signing. But I think they're building. They'll invest. They're going to invest slightly more every year, I think. And so I think another season around mediocrity is probably where they'll be.
yeah. Obviously missing out on that Saudi takeover as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I
lots
mean,
of
there was talks about them going down last year. I don't think they're even in that really even in that conversation this year. I think they'll be safe.
Yeah, no, Steve Bruce has come in and done quite a great job. More than he's done a lot better than people expected of him. Even better than Rafa, some may say. But um, yeah, 13th place. Who have you got?
I have newly promoted Leeds.
Same. Got Leeds there
Well,
too.
there you go. This is
Great minds
turning out to be
alike.
very similar.
Yeah, so Leeds, newly promoted Leeds, first time back in the Prem for 15. Um, yeah, Bielsa takes Leeds back up. I think that lots of people actually have them finishing even higher up the table with their first season back in the Prem for a while. They've definitely got quality. They play football in the right way. What's your take?
I'm not going to buy into the rubbish that they're going to be world beaters this season. I saw an article the other day questioning whether they can make the top four, and that's just ludicrous, if we're being honest. Absolutely ludicrous to think they could compete with United, Chelsea, and those sorts of teams for that third and fourth spot. But I mean, I think they had a good squad. I think the thing is with them, they took so long to get to the Premier League that they have a pretty good squad coming into the Premier League. I think they've been able to build a squad that they've sort of stuck with, so they all know each other very well. So that they just transition that into the Premier League. I think Ben White is going to be a big loss as he's gone back to Brighton. His loan ended, so I think if I was Leeds, I'd be looking to buy another centre back in the remaining
Yeah. No.
time in the transfer window. I think Rodrigo is a good signing at striker.
Yeah.
Um, I think they possibly overpaid for him a little bit, but I think in terms of if your goal is to stay in the Premier League, I think he's good enough to do that job for you. Um, Calvin Phillips, obviously in the centre of midfield, is a good player who I think will step up to the Premier League
Pablo
and be
Hernandez,
solid.
Costa too.
Yeah.
That's strong there.
So I think they had the makings of a Premier League squad already last season, so I think they'll do fine, and I think they'll be in and around those sort of Newcastle, West Ham teams. Um, yeah,
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree with everything that you just said. I think, yeah, mid-table region just below that is where they'll sort of finish this season. They just signed Rodrigo as well. Was it 40 odd million? Wasn't the most typical
I don't think it was that much. I think it was high, possibly around the 30 million mark.
30 million.
Um, they did sign what's his name? Robin, is it Robin Koch or something from Freiburg?
Um, yeah, Robin, yeah. Robin.
I think he's a striker, I believe.
No, defender.
Is he a defender? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I know I do recognise that name and remember him being a solid player. So I think again that's another good signing.
Yeah, and you got Casilla in goals as well, experienced keeper there too. So, or is it? Do they play him as number one?
I don't think he was. I'm not even sure he's there anymore because he definitely wasn't number one last year. I forget the name of their keeper, but he wasn't number one. Casilla.
I just got it up. Ilian Meslier.
There you go. I don't know a whole heap about him.
Neither do I. But yeah, I guess Leeds just coming in to the Prem, signing Rodrigo. I guess it was a bit of a surprise to some. Not many teams who are newly promoted come in and sign that caliber of player straight away. But
They have been linked with Draxler as well in the last couple of days, so I think that would be a good signing. But again, I think I am worried defensively for them because I think who do they have at centre back? I can't really think of a name that I don't know if you have the squad up there where you could read out some of the defenders they have, but
I just got them up. Luke Ayling, Barry Douglas, Liam Cooper, Ezgian Alioski, Stuart Dallas, Pascal Struck, and Leif Davis and Robin Koch.
yeah, okay. So Robin Koch will probably turn out to be a good signing for them. I think Liam Cooper is a decent centre half as well, but I think again there'd be one injury away at centre back from being in pretty big trouble. I think they've got pretty good fullbacks in Ayling, Dallas, Alioski, those sorts of players. I think they don't really need to strengthen there, but I think certainly for centre half, they're probably an injury away from being in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah. No, well said. Yeah, I agree with all that again. 12th place, who have you gone for?
I have a feeling we might have gone for the same again, but you never know. I think I've gone for Burnley.
I've gone for Southampton. Just
Okay, we
different.
haven't. We've changed it up.
Yeah. I guess I'll start first. Southampton last season didn't start the best, losing 9-0 to Leicester early on. Lots of question marks were over them then, but since then they really turned it around quite dramatically. Danny Ings in the goals. What a fantastic season. Some were even saying he could be up for PFA Player of the Year. Obviously, De Bruyne won that just yesterday, but yeah, they've been on the up, and you've got the likes of Gineppo coming out through the ranks as well. He looks like he could be the next Sadio Mane. Yeah, they've just been so much more organised defensively, even at the back end of last season, and yeah, they just been so much better since that 9-0 drubbing from Leicester, and yeah, they just look a lot more well-rounded, and yeah, just a quality Premier League outfit.
Yeah, I think they're a similar team to Burnley in the fact that they're just that sort of mediocrity, a bit better than the pack below them, but they're never really a threat of breaking into that sort of top eight, I reckon. Burnley, good season last season. I think they're around that 10th mark, if I remember correctly. Could have been even ninth or something like that, ninth or 10th.
Yeah.
I don't think they've made any real signings of note.
No, I
But I
can't.
don't think keeping their squad would be the worst thing. I think if Tarkowski leaves, because obviously he's been rumoured to West Ham and Leicester, if he leaves, that's pretty big for them. I think they probably drop down a couple of places from 12th. Um, yeah, I think they're that sort of the team. They'll score enough goals, barring Wood and Barnes, McNeil, these sorts of players stay fit. They have got goals in them. I think they lost Goodmanson. Did they lose? What's that name? What's that guy's name that went to Newcastle? The free agent. Oh, Jeff Hendricks. Jeff Hendricks.
Right.
That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
He went to Newcastle, so I think he'll be a bit of a loss in the midfield, and I think maybe their midfield's a bit weak. If I'm being honest, I think their midfield probably could do with a bit of strengthening, and I think their defence is obviously with Tarkowski at centre back. I think and Pope in goal. They're pretty well organised at the back, as we've known from the past 5 years or so. So I think
Mourinho.
they're a decent side, and Sean Dyche is a good manager, and I think 12th for them is just about right.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I've put Burnley one place above Southampton in 11th, so
Okay, I've gone with Sheffield United in 11th.
Sheffield in 11th. Yeah, okay, yeah. We're all similar, very similar teams. It's going to be hard to predict, but I put Sheffield up in 10th, so I guess we can talk about
I have Southampton in 10th.
in 10th. So do we want to talk about Sheffield then?
Yeah.
In
Sheffield
mid-table?
United obviously performed out of their skin last season. Everyone had them in 20th coming to the season, and they managed to finish in the top 10. But again, I don't think they're going to. Whilst I think they're a good side, I don't think they're going to relive what they did last season. And they've made good signings in Jayden Bogle from Derby, the right back, and Ampadu on loan from Chelsea. So I think in that sense they have strengthened a little bit, but I still worry about where their goals are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. Chris Wilder, we saw exactly how they played last season. They used all their strengths to the best of their abilities, which is, staying very well organized.
Bit of a smash and grab sort of Burnley team.
Yeah, and yeah, they know how to press teams, put teams under pressure, and really box them in, and not give the opposition much to work with. And yeah, I think that they'll be more than fine this season in terms of staying up from the Premier League. In terms of improving quality attacking wise, again, it's a bit of a concern. Is it McGoldbridge who plays up front for them?
Yeah, and then you've got McBurney.
And McBurney, sorry.
Mousse's coming back from. Oh no, Mousse was there last season. Who's the guy that was on loan at West Brom? I think he might be going back to West Brom though.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah. Well, the way they play similarly, sort of to Liverpool in a way, in terms of how they organise and the way they sort of press teams off the ball. But obviously, they don't have the quality Liverpool have. So that's the real big difference between the two sides. But yeah, just Chris Wilder has them playing very
Again,
well.
another solid team that will be very well organised, but I think we'll see a little bit of a second season come down for them back to sort of where they should be, I think, in 11th.
Yeah. No, I think teams would have worked them out a bit too as well, given
I think they even have the potential to finish below Burnley. I think that's a bit
it's
of a
hard to
toss-up,
pick
those sorts of
between those
positions.
two sides, both very similar outfits as well.
And I'll just touch quickly on Southampton in 10th. I think again they were playing very good football at the end of after lockdown. Sorry, I think they've made a couple of decent signings. They haven't lost anyone particularly big to them. Lamina and Reed weren't starting really. I know they lost Højbjerg to Tottenham, but I think Armstrong's a really good player and he sort of plays that role, I guess. And I think they did sign a centre mid, a dark fella. I can't remember what his name is, but Danny Ings, obviously, he's a very good striker.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Nathan Redden, who's a good player.
Did you mention Højbjerg?
Yeah, I just mentioned Højbjerg leaving. Yeah. I think Hassan Hoodle will have them pretty well organised, and I think he started to come into the role after lockdown, and they really started to playing the football that he wanted them to play, and we saw the results follow. So I think they'll manage to finish 10th. I think they'll surprise some people and finish 10th.
Yeah, I think that in Hassan Hoodle, it looks like at least they have a manager that can stay a bit longer term, sort of like your Pochettino did not so long ago at Southampton. So hopefully we can see them develop a bit more because we've always known Southampton, they grow these players and then sell them on. So I think that they're probably reaching about that stage, maybe at the end of this season, where maybe we'll see the likes of Ward-Prowse leave and Jenipo, even Danny Ings maybe to a bigger club, and then they'll start that cycle once again of bringing players up and improving them and then selling them on. So I think we'll see another productive year from Southampton.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
obviously Ward-Prowse as well in the centre midfield. So I don't think they're going to...
yeah,
that Højbjerg loss is going to particularly worry them.
no, no, I don't think so either. But yeah, top half of the table time. Ninth place. Who have you gone for?
A little bit of surprise. I've gone for Wolves in ninth.
Wolves. Okay, I've gone for Everton. The Ev. Even after they've signed James Rodriguez, they signed Doucouré as well, and Allen.
I don't think Doucouré is quite confirmed, but I think it was that Fabrizio Roman guy that said it, so it's very close. So I think
it's confirmed.
Doucouré is confirmed.
Yeah, he's. I was just on the BBC now. He's holding the Everton shirt with the director of football at Everton. So
there you go.
Yeah, yeah, that's a 3-year deal for him. Not too bad. He's 27 years old, still in his productive years. They basically just gone and signed a whole new midfield with Allen, James, and Doucouré there.
It's
his name Gomez.
Interesting because Andre Gomez, you wonder what his role will become. Tom Davies, these sorts of players, they do have a lot of depth now in that position. So I think that's a good thing for them. I personally, if you look at what did they spend? Probably 60 million combined, maybe a bit more for those three midfielders. I think, yes, you needed to strengthen the midfield, but I think Allen and James Rodriguez or Allen and Doucouré or Doucouré and James Rodriguez would have been enough. I think you should have spent 30 million on the defence personally, because I think Yerry Mina's not been as good as they'd hoped. Michael Keane also hasn't lived up to the expectations he came with. Pickford, obviously, in goal hasn't been... he wasn't ideal last season, so I think they still have the ability to ship a lot of goals. And I think Doucouré coming in will help that somewhat, being a defensive midfielder. But I still think I would have liked to see Everton invest a bit in that back four.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say too. That's the defense is the main part they need to address. Obviously, Pickford can be a bit ropey at times. Yeah, Nick Pope, I think, is probably England's best keeper at the moment.
Yeah.
Over Pickford. In terms of attack, they've got Richarlison. I don't really... Calvert-Lewin, there's lots of hype around him. He's not...
He certainly played better than he certainly had a sort of breakout season last season. I still don't think he's going to become that good. I think he'll be a solid Premier League player, but I don't think he's ever going to be, a 15, 20 goal striker. I think he'll be a 10 goal sort of striker. Yeah.
Yeah, they've also got Mason. Is it Mason? Yeah, Mason Holgate coming up through the ranks too, breaking his way into the first team. So they've got a bit more depth this season. Lucas Dean as well at left back, who's a nifty player there too. Yeah. So going forward,
a couple of good wingers. I think they'll have a decent... I think they have a good season, because I obviously don't have them in ninth. But Wolves, who I do have in ninth, I think Wolves will just sort of stabilise a little bit. I think losing Doherty is massive. I think if you look at the fullbacks Wolves have now, I don't see a whole lot in them.
Yeah.
I think Bolly and Cody, I think they're an okay centre-half partnership. But again, without quality fullbacks around them, I think they'll probably be exposed a little bit. I don't think they're a seventh. I don't think they're that top 7 partnership. It'll be interesting to see if Adama Traore leaves. I think that'll be huge if he does leave. Obviously, Wolves demanding a massive fee, so I can't see that happening. But I think for me, Wolves just... they'll have a little drop from the way they've played in the last 2 years. Obviously, João Moutinho is a year older now. He's quite old. I think he's well into his 30s now. Neves probably hasn't developed as much as they would have hoped. if I'm being honest.
Uh,
Um,
they signed, was it Fabio Silva for
they did sign Fabio Silva for a club record fee, 35 million, but obviously, as an 18 or 19-year-old, only scoring three
well,
goals last season. I
does
think
that
he's I think he's
connect?
more of a I think he's more of a one for the future rather than he's going to have an impact this season.
Yeah. Well, he's got that Portuguese connection, I guess, with Nuno being Portuguese as well, the Wolves manager. I have Wolves in eighth, so I guess we can just continue to talk about them a bit. Europa League next season as well. Sorry, maybe that could be a problem for them. Obviously, juggling the two competitions, it wasn't really for them last season, but this season is a bit more congested, so maybe lose.
The Wolves aren't in Europe this year, I don't think.
Oh, maybe they're not. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
that.
Leicester took their spot in the Champions League and
Yeah,
pushed Arsenal and such into the Europa League.
yeah,
Tottenham into the Europa League, and that means there's no spot for them because Arsenal took it with the FA Cup, which is pretty harsh considering they went so far in the
yeah,
Europa League and then not to qualify again. But I guess that's an argument. They're solely focused on the league. They could
yeah.
maintain for me. They could be a little bit higher than ninth. I have Leicester in eighth.
Mm-hmm. Leicester
Uh,
eight. Yep. Okay.
I
I've got.
think, yeah, I think Leicester were horrible.
Hmm.
In that last,
Yeah, they
yeah, after
really.
lockdown in that period, they were really poor,
They
and
did
I
average
think that was partly because they had injuries to Chilwell and Pereira, and their fullbacks are so important to what they do, and I think. They've lost Chilwell now permanently. Johnny Evans is a year older. Siyunku's still young.
Hmm.
Um, they've brought in Castan from where the Atalanta, who really was very mediocre in a Atlanta team that really performed really well. I think I was watching a video the other day that highlighted his stats, and he was sort of a fringe player for them. So it's an interesting signing for 25 million or whatever they paid for him. And I think that's a big downgrade. I think they're sort of settling in that left back position where I think Chilwell was that next level player.
Hmm.
Again, Vardy's a year older. I worry about their attack if Vardy's not scoring 20 goals or 29, 20, nearly 30 goals like he did last season. Ioze Perez, I think they need an upgrade on him. I just don't think he's the player you want if you're going to be pushing for a position in Europe. Um, Damari Gray really hasn't lived up to the potential. I think Barnes is a good youngster, but again, he's not. He has potential, but he's not there yet in terms of being a player that can push them into Europe. So for me, that means that Madison has a whole lot of responsibility, and
Yeah.
I think it'll be
He was
interesting to
injured at
see
the.
how good he is.
He was injured at the back end of last season, and I think
He
that was
was.
also
Yeah.
into why they didn't finish in the top four in the end. Um, but I still think that finishing seventh would be decent for Leicester. Obviously, Jamie Vardy getting another year to his age as well. We'll see if that affects his performance in the league. He's still lightning fast as ever, so I don't think his standards will drop off too much. Um, but again, it's another season, another preseason for the Leicester squad to gel. You know, Brendan Rodgers still relatively new into that role there as well. So losing Chilwell definitely won't help their cause, but I still think they'll be pushing for that Europa League sort of spot.
Yeah, I think they will, and I think they've been unambitious for me. Leicester have been unambitious. They've got Europa League. They finished fifth last season. They should have finished in third, realistically. They should have been in that top four. They should have been in the Champions League. They got 80 million for Maguire last year. They got 50 million for Chilwell this year. And what have they spent? 25 million on a fringe player at Atalanta. I think they really could have gone hard in the transfer market, made a statement, and really tried to progress. I think they're just middling out. They put themselves back.
Mhm.
They had such a great season last year that I think they've gone back a couple of years from where they were last season. So I'm just confused why they haven't invested the way they should.
Yeah, it was a bit odd as well, I must admit, looking in at Leicester and with all that money, I guess, generated from Maguire, as you mentioned before. Maybe they just don't want to disrupt the harmony in the squad. I guess we saw that with Liverpool, but obviously they're title winners now, and it's not Leicester well miles off that. So Yes.
maybe, but again, if a player like Ricardo Pereira or Maddison gets injured, you're in big trouble. And it's not like they have old players. Schmeichel's going to have to be replaced in a couple of years. Johnny Evans probably will have to be replaced in a year's time. Jamie Vardy's coming towards the end of his career. These players do need to replace. I think they need to start looking in the transfer market for players in these positions.
Yeah. Also, yeah, with I guess the pandemic as well, finances has been tough for teams, so maybe
I
that's also.
understand that, but they've got 130 million from two sales, and they're
Mhm.
not the only players they've sold.
Yeah, I guess. Well, Wilfred indeed, like they're still strong,
No,
but
that's why they're still in eighth. Eighth is a very respectable position in the Premier League, but I
yeah.
just think they could have kicked on.
No,
And I,
definitely. Like,
I, I have Everton in seventh, just FYI.
okay,
We sort of touched on them. I think
yeah, I
they're
think
going to have a very strong midfield. I think their attack is pretty decent. Calvert-Lewin's starting to play better football. Richarlison's still a good player.
yeah.
Players like Bernard, Walcott, they're
Well,
just
I guess when you have
okay enough.
Carlo Ancelotti as the manager as well,
Yes,
that's going to elevate them to
yeah.
another level
I
too.
think
So it's
I
the
think he'll do
third
it.
the
He,
third time he's signed James Rodriguez for Real Madrid, Bayern, and now Everton. So I guess yeah.
be interesting to see how James Rodriguez go in the Premier League. I don't know how I feel about how I just don't have a feeling he's going to be that good. I think
How old is he?
Doucouré and Allen are both great signings. Um,
How
the only question mark with
29.
Everton is their defence. But I mean, if Michael Keane starts playing well, we know Digne's a great player. Um, I think they have enough to get that seventh. Whether they will get it on is an interesting question because Everton can be a bit inconsistent in how they play. But with Ancelotti there, I think they'll be ambitious and I think they'll be aiming for seventh. And I think they'll probably get it.
Yeah. No, with Ancelotti, there's always that possibility. I think he's probably um, the third best manager in the league. So behind Jurgen and Pep Guardiola at the moment. Top six. I've got all the big six. So do you in the top six.
Yeah.
Sixth and fifth. I guess we'll start with those European.
In six, I've
uh,
gone with Tottenham, and fifth, I've gone with Arsenal.
same here. I think that Arsenal, the signs they've shown since Arteta's come in, they've been better than their North London rivals, Tottenham. Aubameyang still firing with the goals. They've got lots of young players coming through the ranks as well with Nketiah. Those types of players. The defense, they've signed Gabriel from Lille in France. So there's
Obviously,
definitely.
Saliba comes back as well from his loan.
Yeah, there's signs of improvement there at Arsenal already, and that's exactly what the fans have wanted. So they look to be on the up, beating Liverpool in the Community Shield at the start of the season. It looks like there's more of a clear plan with Arteta at the helm. So I think that will finish above Tottenham, who have made a couple of good signings in Doherty and Højbjerg as well, strengthening the squad depth there. So I think that'll elevate Tottenham a tiny bit, but again, under Jose Mourinho, it looks a bit dull, I would say.
It does look a bit dull, and I think I think you look at these Arsenal and Tottenham, and you still think they both have the potential to be in the top four if they get it right. You can fire for a season and be in that top four. Um, Tottenham, for me, they look so good going forward in terms of the players they have. Son, Bergwijn, Dele Alli, Kane's obviously world class. So I think they're very strong with that point. But for me, Højbjerg's a weird sort of signing in terms of that he's not taking you to the next level. You spent 20 odd million on someone who's just offering you a bit of squad depth. Really, that's all he's doing. Because I mean, you have Lo Celso in there, you have Dele Alli, you have Ndombele, you have Dyer, you have these sorts of players where none of them really have looked like they're capable of taking you to the next level necessarily. And at the same time as that, Mourinho's got to sort out this defence. And I think Matt Doherty is very important. I think that's a great signing. He sorts that right back position where there's been a bit of trouble ever since Trippier left, really. And I think Doherty's can be a better player than Trippier was there. But You know, we saw Dyer playing centre back at times after lockdown for Tottenham, and you just think Mourinho needs to probably go into the transfer market and sort out the defence.
Well, that's his speciality, isn't it? The defense. So I guess yeah, Doherty, very Mourinho-like signing, and yeah, they've strengthened a tiny.
Because
Um,
Vertonghen went to Benfica, didn't he? It was Vertonghen, wasn't it?
yes, I
So
believe.
is Alderweireld still at the club, but he's just fallen out of favour with Mourinho.
Yeah. Well, who? Yeah, the options they have: Davinson Sanchez, who hasn't necessarily proved himself.
I think he's okay if you have someone good to partner him. I think
Yeah,
you need.
it's not the worst situation for Tottenham, but they haven't really gone on to improve that squad really. And we've seen in the past injuries to Harry Kane as well have disrupted them towards the back end of seasons too. Injuries to Son, so
Right.
Ali Ali is really gone missing for the last couple of years as well. So it's an important season for him. Have you seen any of the new Tottenham documentary that's come out at all?
No, I haven't actually.
Neither have I. That may be an interesting watch. To see how Mourinho's been dealing with the players. Because from the outside looking in, it looks like he's just very, not that he doesn't care. Obviously, he cares very much, and it's his job to do. But it looks like there's a lack of interest there, and he's, not completely invested in the job. I guess Mourinho is his personality sort of comes off as that sometimes, but it just looked like there's a lack of ambition at Tottenham at the moment, and that's why I don't have them finishing in the top four.
Put it this way, I think if Dyer is playing centre back for Tottenham, then there's real trouble. Real trouble. I think trouble enough to put them out of the top six.
Mhm. Definitely. And I think, yeah, there's also been an issue with attitudes at Spurs as well. Jose Mourinho, not necessarily the greatest manager in terms of that. We've seen Dele Alli with attitude problems. Dyer obviously going into the stands to confront the supporter who supposedly abused one of his siblings.
That's right.
Um, yeah,
A
so
lot of players just aren't playing their best football. You look, Dele Alli, who's been very injury interrupted, just really hasn't played his best football for a long time now. Son came back from the military, hasn't looked himself. You know, these
even
players.
Kane looks a lot slower and a bit more sluggish, and not like his usual self, where he'd maybe drop back a bit, move the ball on, and get into the box and make those darting runs where we see him finishing from close range inside the box. Usually, like last season, towards the back end, especially, Kane was picking up the ball, maybe playing a diagonal, but then he'd sort of jog back towards the middle of the park instead of making those darting runs into the box, and he's just been far less dynamic for that Tottenham squad. And maybe that was because of the fixture congestion in the Premier League, those injuries maybe catching up with him. Who knows? Maybe it's just what Mourinho has sort of said to him, and that's the sort of style he's playing now, a bit more conservative, I guess, which is the Mourinho way, which maybe is harming the Tottenham squad a bit because they have so many attacking options with Son, Bergwijn, Lucas Moura even. They've got lots of pace up front, and the counter attack can be astounding at times. But it is quite alarming, I guess, the way they play football with such quality they have.
Yeah, definitely. And the point you allude to there is that they do have enough quality to be in that top four or even be above Arsenal there. So I think, again, they're a hard one to predict because they could be seeing themselves fall out of the top six or back into the top four or just stick around that sort of sixth spot where I think they'll be.
Yeah. Well, Arsenal fifth. Do we have anything else to add in terms of them?
Um, they're better defensively now thanks to the signing of Gabriel.
Mhm.
Saliba coming back from loan. They've got a bit of depth there at centre back.
David Luiz.
Obviously,
No,
David
not for
Luiz,
you.
Stuffy, Rob Holding, they're all still there. Um, again, I think they need to dive into the transfer window in terms of a defensive midfielder. I think to go to the next level, I
They
think
did
they
bring
need,
some Ceballos for another loan,
yeah,
but
they
that's
bring
really
Shabazz alone, and I think
what.
they've put bids in for Aouar from Lyon, and
Yes. Yeah.
that would be a fantastic signing if they got him. But even if they got him, he would take them to another level, and he would improve their team. But they still need the defensive midfield to sort out that spine, I think.
Yeah. I'm not really glad that they haven't sold Aubameyang, but they haven't repeated past sort of mishaps in the transfer market where they've sold one of their best players to a rival team going for the title. We've seen that with Robin van Persie. back in 2012, 2013 season, I think it was, selling Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to Liverpool. They haven't made those mistakes again, and I think that's really a sign to show that they're a growing club now, and players actually want to stay there and be part of the project with Arteta. So I think that's good signs, bright signs for Arsenal ahead, and that's why I have them finishing above Tottenham. In terms of fourth spot, the first Champions League spot, I've got Manchester United. Who do you have?
I also have Manchester United.
United, yeah. And then third, we'll just get rid
Chelsea.
of two. Chelsea, yep, same. Um, both teams strengthening this summer. Chelsea obviously going all out with their transfer window. We've touched on that in previous
Yeah,
podcasts.
we touched on Chelsea and how much they've gone ham. And so what I would say about Chelsea, because we've said so much about them last week, is that there is so much pressure for them to finish third. Lampard has to have that third spot at least. He needs to own that third spot. It's up for grabs and he needs to take it.
They don't get off to a good start. Lampard could be under serious pressure, and
Serious pressure.
we haven't seen him yet as a manager really perform under that sort of
No.
pressure. I guess well, in a way, he has finishing top four last season.
And you know what? He did finish top four last season. He does deserve credit to get credit for that. But if you have a look at the teams that were meant to be competing with him at the start of the season, Arsenal and Tottenham had poor seasons. They had poor points tallies. Chelsea's 66 points or whatever it was to get into the top four maybe isn't enough this year. You don't know.
Yeah.
So I think everyone just expects them to be in the third, fourth position and breeze into it. But I think it will be a lot harder than that.
It will be harder, and people are even saying they could challenge for the title this season, which I disagree with. I don't think they're quite there yet.
No, they aren't.
Well, we're still yet to see if the squad's even going to gel yet. I mean, they've signed fantastic players, but they still have to play together. They haven't had much.
That squad could take a year to be really become a really good squad.
Yeah, no, exactly. And plus the goalkeeper situation, Kepa, he's not going to cut it. I don't think they need to invest in a new goalkeeper if they really want to take it to the next level and close the gap between City and Liverpool. But then again, who is going to buy Kepa now? He's on ridiculous wages. Chelsea, paid 80 odd million for him. So if they want to try and make money on that transfer, they're going to have to take lower than what they paid for him. He's going to have to take a wage cut, most likely as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that situation. Do they really play Caballero over him as well?
Yeah, I can't see Kepa leaving this window just because I can't see much interest, especially with the pandemic and the price he'll come at. I think he won't be leaving Chelsea this year, but I think that they're going to bring in Mendy from Rennes, who's an experienced, good goalkeeper who I think will cover the cracks in that area. I don't think he's going to be a next level goalkeeper that maybe the Chelsea fans dreamt of having at the start of the transfer window in like Oblak and Onana and stuff. But I think, again, he could be a good addition just to cover those cracks for a season or two and help them progress.
No, definitely. I think that obviously, I guess we're talking about the defense a bit. I'm not exactly sure who's even going to start yet. You got Azpilicueta at right back. You got James. There's good options to have. Quite fair to them. But Thiago Silva comes in. I think he starts. You've got who else are they going to play at centre back?
They've got potentially Tomori, Zuma, Christensen, Rudiger. Malang Sarr. They have an abundance of centre backs. Really.
There's so many choices to choose from, and Ben Chilwell will start. I think he's probably your first name on the team sheet because even with your attacking options now, you've got Pulisic, Abraham, Werner, Ziyech, Kai Havertz. So
it's a good thing that you have a quality fullback to partner with those centre backs. Chelsea in the past years have sort of chopped and changed with their centre back pairing. We've seen it with their previous manager and with Frank Lampard now. Zuma, Tomori, Rudiger, Christensen, they've all sort of chopped and changed it. They haven't really found a two that they can stick with and be comfortable with. And bringing in Malang Sarr and Thiago Silva this year, it just makes you think that maybe that problem will continue. Who's going to be that partner for Thiago Silva? Or is Thiago Silva not going to live up to the expectations and he's going to be the one that's rotated, because you can't trust Rudiger. Whilst he plays good some games, we saw in games like West Ham's, their loss to West Ham 3-2, he can be exposed. So it'd be interesting if they're able to find the balance with those two centre backs, and if they do, I think that'll go a long way to them finishing third.
Yeah, I think if N'Golo Kante can stay fit as well, that'll help them a lot throughout the season in their endeavours to finish in the top four. I think you pair him with Kovacic in midfield. He had a good season last year too. But then again, for the youngsters in that team, Mason Mount, Billy Gilmore, who are just coming up through the ranks as well, they're going to find it tough to break into that team. It can be good competition for that squad, but I think it could be a detriment to their development. And
Definitely. If I was maybe not Mason Mount, but if I was Billy Gilmore, I'd certainly be looking to go out on a loan for a year.
yeah, we've seen it with Chelsea in the past. All those players having to, leave to prove themselves elsewhere. I think Gilmore's a top quality player, and I think definitely he'd be wanting to get more minutes under his belt for the upcoming season. In terms of attacking options, they still got Giroud. Batshuayi is about to go back on loan to Crystal Palace. So you
Yeah,
still got
see,
Timo Werner and Abraham, which is quality options to
yeah,
have. Once again, especially if one of those gets injured, you still got two other strikers to come in. Pulisic, um, great end of the year last year. Um,
he's
Ziyech,
going to be a very, very good player if he needs to stay fit there. He looks like a
yeah,
bloke that's a bit injury prone to me.
yeah, we've got Hudson and Doy too. So this,
Yeah, it's an interesting one to see how long Hudson-Odoi stays at Chelsea. I think,
mm,
um, or if he can break through at Chelsea, really, because he's got Pulisic behind him, and he's a fair way behind Pulisic. And I think he's been there. He's been there, been talked about that him becoming that superstar for a few years now. He needs to be playing regular football. He
yeah,
needs to be developing because he's not. He's still young, but he's getting on. Like in terms of
he
if
needs that
his time
breakthrough,
is
that
passing, if
breakout
him not
season.
playing.
Yeah, he definitely needs that breakout season because everyone's been hyping him up so much. I think we saw snippets of that towards the end of last season. It remains to see what he can produce this season. Maybe with more competition for his place, that's what really drives him on. Who knows? But Frank Lampard with a big job under his belt at Chelsea, it'll be very interesting to see what goes on there. We'll move on though to Man United. We'll touch a bit on them. We both have United finishing fourth. It really is going to be tight for the Champions League spots once again this year, but I think United, with their improvement again, the back end of last season, we saw a bit more consistency from them, adding Donny van de Beek to the mix as well. Will serve them some good. Missing out on, well, transfer window's not over yet, but it doesn't look like Sancho is going to come in this season just yet. But yeah, with the way they're playing their attack, I think their front three had the most goals in the Premier League last season with Martial, Rashford, and who's the last one that I'm missing?
Greenwood.
Greenwood as well. So, and then again, Greenwood as well, another season for him to really kick on. So I think that um, I don't know if they'll beat Chelsea and finish above them, but I think they'll definitely finish in the top four.
Yeah. Looking at their squad, I'd be pretty happy with their sort of front three than the midfield. I think they're pretty solid in there. Obviously, you'd like to add Sancho. He brings quality in, but I mean, if it's not meant to be this transfer, it's not. We know it's not meant to be. I still worry about the defense again. I think Maguire is not an 80 million player.
No.
That's the fact. He gets beaten too easily. He's a solid centre back, but he's not. He's not an 80 million. He's not a Van Dijk. That's the fact of the matter. They paid the same price, a bit more than what Liverpool paid for Van Dijk, and he's not a Van Dijk. Lindelof, again, he's not. He's just not that next level centre back you need. So
Mhm.
again, Van der Beek's a great signing. You've paid 40 million for him. Could you have spent that 40 million for a centre back? Or could you have spent that Jadon Sancho money that they were willing to spend on someone like Koulibaly? I feel like that would be better well spent money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, United have really, I guess, their transfer policy and the way they've gone about things has been a bit slow and unlike United in past seasons. So it's been a bit odd well, not a bit odd. We've seen it in the last few seasons over there, but yeah, not
Because
getting
Van
deals
der
done.
Beek, whilst he's a great player, he's a bit of a weird one for me in the fact that you have Pogba, you have Fernandes. They needed a CDM, in my opinion. They needed that
He can't get around
defensive
the field.
midfielder.
Like,
Matic was pretty bad last year.
lost his
No,
legs. Yeah, he
yeah,
doesn't have that
he's
range
getting old now.
he used
So
to.
I think you're better off. Why not spend that? money that you're willing to spend on Sancho on someone like Koulibaly, who fixes the problem at centre back. You've got a
Mhm.
great centre back partnering with him and Maguire, or getting a proper central defensive midfielder in Rice, who's dubbed to be the next Carrick, someone like that, or even a quality fullback because we know they've got Wan-Bissaka, but they're having trouble at left back with Williams.
Yeah, Williams and Luke Shaw in the long term doesn't look like they're going to cut it. If United, again want to close that gap between Liverpool and
I
Man
think
City.
Williams has a potential, but he's only 19 or 20 or whatever, how old he is. He's
Mhm.
got plenty of years to develop to become into that first team fullback.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper situation as well. David De Gea is still there. You think he starts with the wages that he's on and all the rest of it, but
The good thing is that if De Gea is not starting, they have the proven Premier League good goalkeeper in Dean Henderson now. There's not a trouble there in the fact that we need to ship out De Gea and bring in another player because Dean Henderson's almost like a new signing. He's a very good goalkeeper.
yeah. And also maybe it's the kick up the arse that De Gea needs to say, listen, mate, if
100%.
you're not going to perform, then we have a more than capable keeper to come in and sustain that spot for a long time too. So, yeah, United, I guess maybe we'll feel a bit of competition, a bit more this season from Arsenal and Tottenham, because Arsenal look to be on the way up too. But missing out on Sancho, I thought that they maybe missed a trick there. He would have elevated them to that next level, in my opinion. Which he's such a top quality player. Maybe they're waiting till next summer as well, and that's why they're not necessarily spending on the defenders that they need to, as we mentioned. But
Yeah, I think waiting a year, as long as provided you get him, I don't think you're going to have to pay anything really extra for him next year that they wouldn't have had to pay now. So I think
yeah,
in that terms, in that sense, it's not a huge loss that if he still comes next year, he's still really young and have plenty of years at United to come.
all right. Enough United talk. Who do you have winning the Premier League?
I have, for me, it's a 50-50 almost. It's could go either way, but I have City winning the league with Liverpool running runners up, and I
Behind.
don't I don't feel confident in saying that, but it's what my gut is telling me at the moment. Just because I am worried slightly about the way Liverpool have played in the last 3 months. Um, they haven't been the team they were that won them the league. Let's be honest. They weren't the same. They haven't been the same team. They've looked a little bit more shaky defensively. Van Dijk probably hasn't been playing as well um, as he did, but obviously he has the potential to click straight back into form. I wouldn't. I'm not worried about the defense in that way. Just in terms of winning the league and the competition that City provide, you have to be so on, I think. And I think Liverpool squad in general, they they haven't invested the way I would have liked to see them invest to stay at the top because obviously Man City have invested in Ferran Torres and it looks like they might be trying to go for Koulibaly, who would be a massive signing if he came. Even if he doesn't come, they've got Ake, who's going to be more than capable. And of course, you've got to remember Laporte's coming back from a long-term injury. He changes that side. I don't think they're an 81-point side or whatever they got last season. They're a much better side than that. But in terms of going back to Liverpool, I think the squad doesn't have the depth for me. Um, that if they get an injury to the front three or they get an injury to Van Dijk, that they're going to be able to cope with it and still win the league. Because I
Yeah.
think you've sold Lovren. Matip is your only senior centre back, other than I think it's Vanderberg and Hoover, isn't it?
Yeah, Hoover. There's also Nat Phillips as well. Yeah.
I think I would be worried if Van Dijk got injured. I would be worried if one of the front three get injured because I've said it numerous times that I don't think Minamino is the man. I think he's more than capable in terms of playing at a Premier League level, but you've got to remember the level that Salah and Mane are playing at, and this is a level you have to play at to win the Premier League when you've got City in the competition. So I just think that yes, if Liverpool stay fit, they will win the league. But they've been pretty lucky with injuries this year. Even if players like Robertson, I know you bought Tsimikas, but he's unproven. Like, I would just be worried in terms of injuries and squad depth. I don't know how you see it, but that's my problem and why I think City will win the league for me. I think they just have a bit better depth, and they'll rebound from last year. They'll be disappointed with how they played last year, and they'll be very hungry this year.
Yeah. I do have Liverpool finishing top. I am a Liverpool supporter, so I'm trying to be unbiased when I explain my reasonings as to why I think we'll finish top. Um, yeah, it's going to be closer than last season. City will push us further. I don't think we can necessarily achieve the 99 points that we did last season. It's going to be hard to emulate that for a third season running 97 points, 99 points, and then do that again will be very, very tough. It's hard to go back to back. As well. Take that into consideration too. But in terms of City, I think they put as favourites this season. I think Liverpool's form has been taken into consideration with that by the bookies who make the odds as well. But City, they signed Nathan Ake, not necessarily the most convincing of defenders. Obviously
I,
been linked.
I, in saying that, though, I think he's an upgrade on Otamendi and Stones, who have been sort of occupying that role, and
That's
Fernandinho.
Again, but looking as we mentioned before, you signed him from relegated Bournemouth, who didn't really
Yeah,
necessarily defend well. So
I don't. I
something to
think,
prove still when he comes in.
yeah, I think he'll be okay, but I do think they should sign Koulibaly. I think they go to the next level if they sign Koulibaly. And for me, I think the start of the season is going to be so important because Liverpool, in the back of their mind, they're thinking we aren't playing the best football. But if they can get it clicking and get over that form, almost that form slump, it's not a slump, but it's a slump in terms of how well they were performing, and they start the season strongly, I think they will win the league. But I can just see them start in the form they're in, starting a little bit slow, and not even necessarily losing games, but dropping points maybe they should be securing, maybe a draw here or draw there, or one out of character loss like we saw after lockdown. I think it was Burnley who you drew at home with.
Yeah,
You
well,
also lost two games in that period.
take into consideration that we had won the league by that
No,
point.
I completely take that into consideration. That's
Subconsciously,
why I thought it could go
they
either way, and Liverpool could come out and blitz it. But I
yeah,
still think in the back of my mind and in the back of the players' mind, there will be that little bit of we aren't playing our best football and playing the way we did play. And I
yeah,
also think they missed a little bit of a trick not signing Werner because I do think they need someone to give Firmino a bit of as you said, a kick in the bum to
yeah.
get him going.
No, that's true. He was Firmino. Well, we played Blackpool the other day, beat them 7-2. It was. We did go.
Also was down to
Yes. Firmino was probably the brightest of Mane, Salah, and Firmino of the front three.
look.
Uh,
You can't really. It's
no,
Blackpool.
you can't take away too much from the preseason games, but I think that maybe sorry, not the freshen, the not playing Champions League towards the end of the Premier League season maybe help give the players a bit of a refresher. Um, Going to the Community Shield game against Arsenal, we didn't play very well at all, but second half a bit more positive signs, sorry. But then again, we just had that preseason camp in Austria. Jurgen would be putting them through all the dirty work in preseason, all the running, all that sort of thing, getting them fit and ready for the actual season to start.
Mm.
So I don't think we can take too much from the Community Shield either. Um, but yeah, I think that we'll see a different Liverpool come the start of the season, and I think people are making a bit too much in terms of cause for concern as the defense isn't playing as well as we would expect us to, and all that sort of stuff. I guess there is that little worrying factor in people's minds, but then again, I think that people are worrying a bit too much about that as well.
I think you're probably right, but I think we're talking about a title race here, and I think with how good Man City are and how on you have to be, even that little bit of doubt in the back of my mind is enough for me to say that Man City will win the league because I think you need to be going into the season with no doubts.
Yeah, well, again, if we look at City's defense, Liverpool's defense is stronger, in my opinion. You got Nathan Ake; he still has to come in and prove himself. Even Laporte is a top class defender, and he's going to improve their defensive skills, the defensive side of things at City. But He's not Van Dijk either, as well.
No, but he's as close as Van Dijk I think you're going to get in the Premier League.
That's true. Yeah, I guess you could say that. But yeah, I still think City, like Mahrez and Laporte testing positive for COVID as well. That's a thing too. So maybe that maybe derails them at the start of the season a bit. Not too sure, but yeah, it's going to be close. And to be
Yeah,
honest,
it's going to be a great title race, I think. Again, I think it's one of those things where you can go either way. It's so hard to predict. Both teams are that good where there that it could
yeah,
just go
coming
either
into the
way.
season, I can't 100% say, oh yeah, Liverpool are going to win this. It's going to be close, and I think I'm just happy to say, sitting here right now, saying Liverpool are going to be in the title race, and that's just such a great feeling because what 5 years ago, 6 years ago, Liverpool in the spot under Brendan Rodgers when we were just developing as a side. I was dreaming of sitting here, like anticipating a season where we could go on and try and win the title. So,
Yeah,
Liverpool is
that's
still
right.
in a good place, and I think people need
I,
to
I
remember
think
that.
that's a testament to both City and Liverpool, though, is the fact that you take either one of those out, the other one's guaranteed to win the league.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to how good they both are.
Yeah, miles above the rest in the Premier League at the moment. The gap is still quite large, I think. And I guess City do have to overcome, I think was it 18-point deficit it was that
It
we won
was,
the
yeah.
title by. So
But
there's still a bit of work for them to do.
it is a big deficit, but they aren't an 18-point better side, Liverpool. That's the facts. They aren't an 18-point. Come the end of the season, they may be a 5-point or a 3-point end of the season, and that's what we're predicting. But they're definitely not an 18-point better side. That's the facts.
Not coming into this season. No.
So
Not
it'll
this.
be interesting to see. We've both gone with different winners, which is it's good for the suspense.
Yeah. We'll have to revisit this come the end of
We
the end
will
of the season, which will be interesting. But yeah, it's going to be across
definitely.
again. Liverpool there's still a chance for teams to make signings as well. Thiago maybe one that could be brought in, although it's dragged on quite a long time. Maybe if we
Again,
sell,
it's bringing in midfield depth where I probably think you have the most depth.
yeah,
So I think it's a good signing, but I think in terms of squad depth overall, he's not the position you need. But I do think he will strengthen you, yes.
yeah. Well, there was rumors of Wijnaldum potentially, well, that he's agreed personal terms with Barcelona, even though they haven't even put a bid in for him yet. So um,
Uh,
we'll
as a
see.
player, as a person that confuses me why Wijnaldum would want to leave. Understand he's got 1 year to go on his contract, but why would he want to leave at the end of his contract? He's just won the Premier League. He's won a Champions League. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I guess. Well, there is that Dutch connection, I guess, with Koeman at Barcelona, maybe. But then again, the state that Barcelona's in, I don't know why exactly, like you just said, why you want to leave Liverpool. They're challenging for titles, and he will challenge for the Champions League again next season as well.
That's right.
So, um, yeah, lots to still consider, I guess. But did you have anything else to add in
I
terms of?
think that's all I have to add.
Yeah, we're rolling around to an hour and a half. I think we'll split it into different parts, maybe bottom 10, top 10 sort of thing.
It'll be
Um,
very interesting to see how well our tables do come out as predictions at the end of the season. How well we've gone in predicting the table.
yeah, no, exactly. If you made it this far, thank you. Please drop us a like and subscribe as well. Share it with all your friends and leave us your Premier League predictions for next season as well. We're going to be trying to upload a bit more consistently now that sort of university break is rolling around too. So we'll get some more content out for you guys. But yeah, thanks, Elliot, for joining me again.
No worries. I look forward to being back next week to review game week 1.
Yes, exciting times. The Premier League's back. And yeah, hopefully it'll be back with the supporters in the stadium soon as well.
Hopefully, it'll be back with a big West Ham win over Newcastle. That's all I can say.
But it's already the relegation battle begins. But yeah, no, it's an intriguing first round of fixtures, and yeah, we'll be reviewing those for you probably in the next video. So yeah, thanks guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.